Hey everybody, and welcome to Matthew's English Cast, the podcast for people who want to learn English, are learning English, want to improve English, or just want to listen to someone speaking English. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 8 science and technology expressions. Expect to learn 8 new phrases which come from science and technology, but can be used to talk about everyday things. If you want to find out more information about me, or to book classes, then please go to teachermatthew.com. That's teachermatthew.com using your favorite internet browser. Let's get into the show. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Matthew's English Cast, the podcast for English learners. I hope your new year is going well, and I hope after 7 days of the new year, your New Year's resolution is still intact. You haven't compromised yourself in terms of your New Year's resolution. You have quit or begun something and you're still doing that thing every day. In terms of the weather here in the UK, because that's where I'm still now, it's been a bit okay actually, because it's not been too cold. The temperature hasn't been freezing, even though we are in the middle of winter. The temperature's been in the early teens. I think it's around 10 degrees at the moment. However, it's been a bit overcast. It's been very grey, but at the same time, it's also been very dry, which is very good. Hope the weather is great where you are. I know if you are in the southern hemisphere, for example, in South America or in Australia or New Zealand, you're probably feeling really warm because it's really hot and sunny because it's summer. But if you're in the northern hemisphere, if you're in Asia, North America, or Europe and the Middle East, then it's probably a little bit colder than usual. But this winter has been warmer than usual. Maybe that's down to the climate change that we're seeing. And it's a bit sad, right, what's going on currently in Australia. I'm sure you've seen the bushfires down along the coast of Australia. Even the Queen here has sent her sadness. And so, yeah, everyone's sad about that. One of my New Year's resolutions actually is to become more environmentally aware. And luckily, so far, I have kept that resolution. Recently, I made for the first time my own homemade almond milk, which is very good. So that's really good. In other news, yes, Donald Trump is still an idiot. We don't really need to talk about that, but that's all I'll say about that. But also in other news, someone in the UK, a politician, has come out as pansexual. They have said that they are in love with everybody, no matter their sexual orientation or gender. So pansexual is like a new term, because nowadays, especially in the UK, maybe not in your country, but in the UK, you can change your gender. You can have an operation to do that. And even nowadays, you can just say, oh, I don't feel like I'm a man anymore. I feel like I'm a woman. So that can happen as well. And looking at our European neighbors, France, the people in France are still striking after so many days. So doesn't look so great in France either, right? Hope it gets back to normal and you can use your buses and trains and all of your public services like usual. But anyway, like I said, today we're going to talk about science and technology. I'm going to introduce to you 8 expressions that I found from one of the textbooks I use to teach C2 level English. So I'm sure all of these phrases will be really useful to you. They're really advanced phrases. And I will talk about the literal meaning, like what they're really used for, but also the figurative meaning, like how we might use it to talk about everyday things. So, shall we start? Okay, so first I'm going to read the sentences that contain the 8 phrases, and then after I've read all 8, then I will go back through them and talk you through them, okay? So here we go. Here's the first one. Light years ahead. Their new product has put them light years ahead of their competitors. Warp speed. The country's economy has gone into warp speed. The Big Bang. We are all waiting for the Big Bang when the new boss takes charge. Quantum leap. There has been a quantum leap in the quality of wines marketed in the UK. Black hole. I'm always losing socks. They just seem to go into a black hole. Stardust. He signed an ex-professional footballer to bring some Premier League stardust to his team. Liftoff. We are waiting for the CEO's acceptance so the project can finally lift off. Atomic. A company is made up of atomic employees working together as a workforce. Okay, so the first sentence I said was their new product has put them light years ahead of their competitors. So the phrase light years ahead. And to put it simply, a light year is the distance that travels in empty space in 1 year. And since the speed of light is about 300,000 kilometers per second, which is about 186,000 miles per second, then a light year is about 10 trillion kilometers, about 6 trillion miles. So a light year is a very, very big distance. So when I said that the new product had put them light years ahead of their competitors, I mean that the new product has put them far, far ahead of the competition in their market. For example, when Apple released the first iPhone, it basically put their company Apple light years ahead of the competition. However, I think in recent years, the competition has caught up. Companies like Samsung, Huawei, Xiaomi, and others have made pretty good phones too, right? Maybe you have one of these phones. But in the past, maybe 10 years ago, Apple was definitely light years ahead, right? Maybe they're light years ahead in terms of other devices, though, because I still think in regards to the iPad, they have the best tablet on the market, and I think the iPad is definitely light years ahead of most other tablets. Maybe you disagree with me. The second sentence I said was the country's economy has gone into warp speed. So the second phrase we learned was warp speed. And actually, this phrase comes from sci-fi, science fiction TV shows and movies, such as Star Wars and Star Trek, maybe others. Because basically in these shows, if they have to travel from one planet, like Earth and Mars, to another at a normal speed, it's going to take them years, many, many years, or light years. So if they want to do it quickly, then they have to travel at warp speed, which is said to be faster than the speed of light. So that's really, really fast. However, as far as I know, we can't travel at this speed yet. It's just in these TV shows and movies. So when I said that the Chinese economy had gone into warp speed, I meant that it had sped up. It's started going faster than before and was growing and developing at a quick rate. And actually, in the early 2000s, maybe after 2001, China's economy did exactly this. However, I think a lot of financially savvy people would say that recently the Chinese economy has stagnated a little. It's slowed down a lot. Maybe you are in China right now. Maybe you will have the official information, but as far as I'm aware, that's the case. The GDP in the early 2000s was very, very good, but nowadays not so great. So it's not at warp speed anymore. The third sentence was the Big Bang. We are all waiting for the Big Bang when the new boss takes charge. The Big Bang is actually a scientific theory about how the universe started. which actually made the stars and the galaxies that we see today when we look up in the sky at night, or when we look through a telescope. The Big Bang is the name that scientists use for the most common theory of the universe, from the very early stages to the present day. Obviously, this goes against religion, which basically says God did it all. But again, like I said, this is just a theory, so you can still say that God made the earth in 7 days if you want to, or whatever you believe. That's what the Bible says. The Christians believe. Maybe the other religions think the same thing. I'm not sure. But yes, Big Bang is just a theory. And basically, in this sentence here, the Big Bang is when there is a new beginning or a sudden change. So when I said the Big Bang will be when the boss takes over, it could be a new beginning, or there could be a sudden change. Maybe he will hire some new people or fire some people. Maybe he will change the rules. Maybe people will be moved around in their job positions. But there will be a big bang, a big boom, and everything will change from one day to the next. The full phrase was quantum leap. And the sentence that I said was, there has been a quantum leap in the quality of wines marketed in the UK. Now, quantum leap comes from physics, and it's basically, to put it in layman's terms, to put it very simply, it is the change that occurs in an atom when an electron jumps from one energy level to another. I'm not really into physics. I'm not a physics teacher, so if you want to know more about that, then I would go to Google or look at your science textbooks or ask your science teacher. If you are a science teacher, maybe you can tell me a better definition than that, but that's how I would describe it. So you may have heard this phrase in your physics lessons at school, but when we're using this figuratively, it actually means a big improvement. So when I said that there was a quantum leap in the quality of wine, I mean that the wine being sold, being marketed in the UK is much better than before. There's been a huge improvement in the wine being sold. Okay, so the next phrase is a black hole. And I said, I am always losing socks. They seem to just go into a black hole. And a black hole, as you may know, is a region of space from which nothing can escape, according to the general theory of relativity. It's basically a part of space which sucks up the dust and the stars. And the gravitational pull of this region is so great that, like I said, nothing can escape, not even light. So, figuratively speaking, a black hole can also be an imaginary place where things are lost and maybe never found again. And I always have a problem with socks. I don't know how, because I only wear plain black socks without any designs. They're just plain black. So I can mix and match them, but I always seem to lose socks. I don't know when I lose them, how I lose them, where I lose them, but I just always seem to lose them. They just seem to go into a black hole. And maybe one day I find them, or maybe I never find them again. The next phrase, the sixth phrase, is Stardust. And I said, he signed an ex professional footballer to bring some Premier League Stardust to his team. Now, Stardust is basically magical dust, and I believe, as far as I'm aware, that in the movie and Disney cartoon Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, who is a small fairy, has stardust in her wand to cast magic. And if you watch it at the beginning, when Tinkerbell meets Wendy and her brother, I can't remember her brother's name, but she meets them, and basically she puts the stardust, over Wendy and her brother so they can fly, so they can go to Never Never Land. However, the meaning in this sentence means some kind of charm, some kind of attractiveness with this player, the ex-professional footballer. His team have become more attractive to watch. So before they were just a boring team, just with nobodies. But if he added this one ex-professional footballer to his Premier League, to his team, he has this sense of a magic, of charm. So maybe people will want to watch this team. This team has this ex-professional footballer. Maybe we should go, or maybe I should support this team. Now, the next phrase is a liftoff. And I said in my sentence, we are waiting for the CEO's acceptance so the project can finally lift off. And if you have ever seen a NASA space shuttle launch, then you will know that once they finish the countdown, they say, and we have liftoff. They say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have liftoff. And liftoff is when the shuttle leaves the ground and starts its journey to space. Therefore, in this example, liftoff basically means to launch something, to start something, to begin something. So when I said in the sentence, so the project can finally lift off, I mean the project can finally begin, can finally start. And that's why it can lift off, just like a space shuttle into the space, but figuratively speaking. Now, the final phrase is atomic. And again, maybe you've heard this word from your science lesson too. This word, which is an adjective, basically describes anything to do with atoms. And I was talking about atoms before when we were talking about quantum leap. But atoms are very, very small, very, very small. And many other atoms, and with many other atoms, they make up elements. So many atoms together make up an element. Atomic structure. Atomic is the adjective. Structure. Atomic structure, for example, is used to talk about the structure of atoms. You may have also heard of an atomic bomb. This is a bomb which uses atomic energy when it explodes to cause mass destruction. For maybe my Japanese friends will know about that because of the history of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? However, in my sentence, atomic is related to being an individual thing or a single thing in a much larger system, pretty much like an atom is in an element. So when I said the sentence, a company is made up of atomic employees working together as a workforce, the atomic employees relates to the employees are single individuals, single people, and collectively they're working together in the workforce of a company. The workforce is basically the total number of staff in a company. We can call it a workforce. So in your job, in your team, you are an atomic person, but you are working together because you are an individual person, but working within a larger system of people. Wow, we learned 8 phrases about science and technology. Give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a hug, put your arms around yourself and hold yourself tightly. Well done. You did it. And you did it while listening. I really advise you to listen to the podcast episode a couple of times because not only will you get the benefit of learning the 8 phrases that I taught you, but I'm sure there'll be other words and phrases that you have learned while listening to me as well. What I suggest you do is if there's a word or phrase that you're not sure about when you listen, is just to stop and rewind a little, go back a little bit, and then play again and try to write the word down. If you're not sure about what I'm talking about, then please do get in touch. You can contact me on Instagram, Facebook, and in the YouTube comments as well. just follow one of the links below. I'll put the links to my Instagram and Facebook in the notes below. So do please check that. And if you have any requests, then please get in touch with me as well if you want to learn anything. I recently taught these 8 phrases to one of my students, and I thought that you guys would really like to listen to me explain them to you as well. So I really hope you've got something out of that. And I wish you well for the rest of the week. I hope to get another episode out, hopefully at the weekend sometime. So please do tune into that. And thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook and on YouTube as well. And remember, until next time, to keep practicing.